Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive on, well, video games, but with kind of a unique twist. Our source today is an article by Reactorcore called Games Are Need Satisfiers. And it had some really thought-provoking stuff about why we play games, so I'm really excited to jump into it.
Yeah, this article really gets into like the psychology behind how games are designed and how we can look at game design with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, it kind of threw me for a loop when I first read it. They basically said, forget fun. Like the idea that games are all about entertainment and fun, that's too basic, that games are really about fulfilling those core human needs. Pretty wild, huh?
Yeah, it is a bold statement, but I think they do a good job of backing it up. Like they start by looking at how hard it is to even define fun. Most of us can't really explain it, but then we use fun as this foundation for a whole industry.
Right. It's like we all assume we know what fun is, but if we can't even pin that down, how are we supposed to make games that really click with people on deeper level?
Exactly. And that's where this idea of games as need satisfiers really comes in. It's about looking past just the surface level of entertainment and getting to those deeper reasons why we actually get hooked on games.
Okay, so how does that work in practice? Is the author saying every time we grab a controller, we're subconsciously trying to meet some deep psychological need or something?
In a way, yeah. I mean, think about it. Everything we do in life comes back to trying to fill some kind of need,
Well,
whether it's connecting with people
hmm.
or feeling like you achieved something, or even just, experiencing something new. All those actions are all about satisfying those core drives that we have as humans.
So games are just another way to do that.
Exactly that.
Interesting.
They're just another tool we have for hitting those needs. And what's so cool about games is that they often let us do stuff and experience stuff that we wouldn't be able to in real life.
Give me an example.
Okay, well, think of something like Microsoft Flight Simulator. You get to feel what it's like to fly without ever leaving your house, or a game like Civilization, where you can, create and run whole empires. Those are things that would be super tough, if not impossible to do in the real world.
So it's like games give us a way to try on these different identities and explore all these possibilities that are outside our normal lives.
Exactly. And because of that, games they can really have a deep impact on us. They can teach us new skills. They can help us see the world in new ways and even challenge the things we believe about the world.
Okay, I see where you're going with this, but isn't it a bit much to say that games are all about meeting needs and not just about having fun? I mean, don't most people play games to relax or to kind of escape from reality for a bit?
Well, sure, that's part of it. But even those things, those desires, tie back to some of those core needs. Relaxing can be a way to hit that need we have for rest,
Yeah.
for restoring ourselves. And escaping reality can be a way to find new experiences or maybe fulfill that need we have for control.
Okay. So you're not saying fun isn't important. It's more like fun is what happens when you meet those deeper needs.
Yeah, exactly. Fun comes from having those needs met,
Hmm.
not the other way around. And this is where the article gets really interesting, I think, because it argues that by really understanding these needs, we can make games that are way more engaging, way more impactful than anything we've seen
Wait,
before.
hold on. Before we go too deep into that, there was another idea in this article that really jumped out to me. This concept of self-fullness. It was like a whole new way to think about personal growth and how that connects to making the world a better place.
It is. Self-fullness it's ditching that old argument of being selfish versus selfless. It's more about understanding that we can meet our own needs in ways that also end up, helping other people too. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're growing as a person, but also making a good impact on the people around you.
So it's not about sacrificing yourself for others or the other way around. It's like finding a way to do both at the same time. I like that. But how does that idea connect back to games as need satisfiers?
Well, think about the games that are really successful. A lot of times they're the ones that let players express themselves, but also let them be part of something bigger. Like take Minecraft. You have so much freedom to build your own world, but you can also, you can team up with people. build communities, work towards goals together.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like the game is giving you a space to express yourself, but also to really connect with others in a meaningful way.
Exactly. And when those two things work together, it can create a really powerful experience.
Yeah. I'm already seeing how this whole perspective on game design could lead to some seriously cool and impactful games. But the article also talks about what happens when game design goes wrong, right? When developers like don't get those fundamental
Yeah,
needs.
yeah, and that's where things get really thought-provoking because
Yeah.
it makes us look at the games we play in a different light
Right.
and look at the choices developers are making. Like we have to ask, are these games actually meeting our needs or are they just using them to make money, you know? Whoa. Okay, now we're getting into it. Let's dig into that. I want to hear all about those design traps and how we can spot them.
Okay, so first, we got to understand the framework the article uses to actually identify these core needs. Because it's probably not what you'd expect. It actually it kind of criticizes Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, that pyramid thing everyone learns in psych
Oh,
class.
yeah, yeah. It says that, well, Maslow was on to something big, but that model's a little too stiff. Like it doesn't really show how our needs are always changing, always connected.
Really, really? I always thought that hierarchy was pretty solid. What's wrong with it?
Well, Maslow saw needs like a ladder, you know, like you got to take care of the lower levels, like basic survival stuff, before you can even think about the higher ones, like self-actualization. But in reality, our needs are way more fluid, more like a web, you know?
So you're saying like we don't need food and shelter before we can like want connection or meaning?
Exactly. We might crave connection even when we're starving, or look for meaning when we don't feel safe. It's not a step-by-step thing. The article points to a framework by Manfred Max-Neef, which was later made simpler for nonviolent communication, or NVC, by Marshall Rosenberg.
Okay, now you've got me interested. Tell me more about this NVC thing.
So NVC lists out these core human needs, things like connection, physical well-being, play, autonomy, meaning, peace, you know, stuff like that. And the big difference here is that these needs aren't ranked. They're all important, all kind of pushing and pulling on each other.
That makes a lot more sense. It's not like we like check off one need and then move on to the next, right? It's more like
Yeah.
we're juggling all these needs all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where game design comes in. The article's saying that if developers really get these needs, they can make games that really click with people on a whole other level.
So instead of just like throwing a bunch of features in a game and hoping for the best, developers should be asking like, what needs does this game meet and how can we make it do that even better?
Exactly. It's all about being intentional. Like every part of the game, the mechanics, the story, the look, the sounds, all of it should be working together to help players meet those needs.
Wow, that's pretty different from how most games are made these days. I mean, think about all the games that just try to get you hooked with like crazy graphics
Yes.
or gameplay that's like an addiction.
Hmm.
Are those actually meeting our needs or are they just taking advantage of us, you know?
That's a great question. And it's something the article really dives into. It says that a lot of games try to do too much. Like they try to satisfy all these needs at once. And it ends up being this kind of messy experience that doesn't really satisfy you.
It's like when you go to a buffet and you try to eat everything.
Yeah.
You end up feeling stuffed but not really satisfied.
Exactly. It's about quality over quantity. A well-designed game
Yeah.
will focus on meeting a few needs really well
Yeah.
instead of trying to be, you know, everything to everyone.
And I bet those are the games that really stay with you long after you finish playing them, the ones that make you feel like you've actually changed somehow.
For sure. Because those are the games that connect with something deep inside you. They help you connect with something bigger or explore parts of yourself that you didn't even know were there.
This is wild. I feel like I'm seeing video games in a whole new light. But I gotta ask, if we're gonna start designing games around this NVC thing, don't we got to be careful about how we use it? Like, couldn't this be used to manipulate players, even if it's not on purpose?
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. And it's something ethical game designers, they always got to be thinking about. The key is to use this knowledge, this understanding in a responsible way. It's not about tricking players, you know. It's about getting what motivates them and then creating experiences that actually help them, that empower them.
So it's all about being honest and real with players. Like they should feel like they're in control, not like they're being like controlled by some algorithm or something.
Exactly. And that's where NBC can be really helpful because it's all about empathy and understanding. It
Hmm.
encourages developers to make games that respect the players, you know.
Okay, so how can developers actually use this NVC framework
Yeah.
when they're making games? Like, give me some concrete examples. Let's say I'm designing a game and I want to focus on that need for connection. How would that actually work? Like in the game mechanics or the story?
Well, you could design mechanics that encourage people to work together
Mm.
instead of, competing against each other.
Mm.
You could make a story that shows how important relationships are.
Yeah.
And you could create a world where players feel like they belong by giving them ways to contribute to something bigger.
I see. So it's not just about throwing in a multiplayer mode. It's
Yeah.
about making that need for connection a part of, like, the whole game.
Exactly. And that goes for any need you want to focus on, whether it's autonomy or creativity or meaning or any of those other needs on the NBC list.
Yeah.
The important thing is to think about how every part of your game can help fulfill that need.
This is amazing. I'm already starting to think of all kinds of game ideas using this framework, but I also wonder if this way of thinking could be used for other things too, not just video games.
Totally. I think that's one of the coolest things about this article. It makes us look at everything we do through this need-satisfying lens, whether it's our work or our relationships or our hobbies. We can always ask ourselves, what needs are pushing me to do this?
Mm.
And am I meeting those needs in a way that feels good and helps others too?
It's like this article is giving us a whole new way to understand ourselves and the world around us.
It is. And it can be really powerful.
Yeah.
Because once we get our own needs and the needs of other people, we can start to build a world that's better for everyone.
Okay, I'm totally on board with this idea. I feel like we could talk about this for hours, but we're running out of time for this deep dive. So how does the article wrap up this whole idea of games as need satisfiers? What's the big takeaway for our listeners?
The article's main message is pretty simple, but it's powerful. Video games aren't automatically about entertainment. That's just one thing they can be. The real power of games is when we design them to meet needs.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? What advice does the author give for putting this into practice?
They say developers really need to think hard about what needs their game is trying to meet.
Mhm.
And then make sure that every part of that game, the mechanics, the story, like even the art style, it all lines up with that purpose. It's about being deliberate
Yeah.
and creating an experience that really clicks with players on different levels.
So it's not enough to just like slap a label on it and be like, "Hey, this game satisfies your need for connection."
Right, yeah,
It's got to be baked into the whole game.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about, just giving players what they already need. Games can also help them, like, discover new needs and find new ways to fulfill those needs too.
That's such a cool thought. Like games can be these tools for self-discovery, for personal growth, helping us understand ourselves better and reach our full potential.
Exactly. And that takes us back to that whole self-fullness thing we were talking about. Games can help us become, the best versions of ourselves, not just for us, but for everyone around us too.
I really like that. It's pretty inspiring to think about how much good games can do
It is.
for people and for society as a whole.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that games are so much more than just entertainment. They're powerful tools for learning, for connecting, for creating.
This whole deep dive has totally changed how I look at video games. I'm going to be paying attention to them in a whole new way now, thinking about like what needs they're meeting for me.
I'm glad to hear it. And I hope everyone listening will do the same. Really pay attention to how games make you feel, what needs they're hitting, and if those needs are being met in a good way, a healthy way.
This has been a total game changer. Like we've unlocked some secret level of understanding about the power of games.
I think so too. And I think this conversation, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to explore with this whole idea of games and needs.
Absolutely. But for now, I want to leave everyone with something to think about. What if we took this idea beyond games? What if we started looking at all the stuff we do, even our work, our relationships, through this lens of need satisfaction?
That's a great question. Something for all of us to ponder.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep playing and keep exploring.